right now. People are asking, do I really want, did I really sign up to see 17 or 18% of the American economy that is now wrapped up in health care taken over by the federal government? Did I really sign up to have utility rates double in Indiana, to undo so much of the economic progress we've made in pursuit of nothing, in pursuit of no environmental improvement, through a cap and trade bill so-called that by its own computer models will not budge the world thermometer, will not save one polar bear, but will enrich undeserving states on the coast at the expense of Hoosiers. I didn't sign up for that.
The polar bear line pushed them over 90.
It was one of the best lines of the campaign so far. The fact is that more people will see it tonight because you're showing it than any other place. And that's the point, that Daniels already has a stump speech prepared. He already has a record that he's very easy to talk about. And he knows, having been OMB, what he could do in Washington. His danger is if he waits too long.
All right, we wanted to bring a lot about Daniels up tonight, only because his name is thrown out there day in and day out, and I just wanted to see how he's doing in your dials. Mitt Romney had a big fundraising day yesterday. He seems to be really taking on the health care issue. I know some people have just written him off. You have not. Let's specifically go to him taking on tax hikes and the growth of government, and he said it right here on this program.
I think there's a general misunderstanding on the part of some people in Washington. They presume that jobs just happen, that the economy just happens, that businesses just grow and thrive on their own. But they have to have an environment where that's possible. And raising taxes on small employers will kill jobs. It'll make it more difficult for new businesses to get going. He's laid out a whole series of things he wants to accomplish, Barack Obama has, but listen to what he said the other night. He said he's going to be responsible, or government should be responsible, for a child's education from birth until their first job. Is that universal preschool? Is it universal college? He also said universal service corps.
Sure.
He said we're going to have a universal health care plan. These are massively expensive programs, the way he's outlined them, and we frankly cannot take on these additional costs at a time when our economy is feeling such pain.
Right, he did very well, specifically in the middle of that. And interestingly, he did better with moderates than conservatives for most of it. Why?
Well, first off, he does well when he's attacking Obama. And there's one thing that all the Republican candidates should realize, is that the enemy isn't each other. The enemy is the President of the United States, if your goal is to defeat that president. But when he started to get into some of that education issues, actually voters misheard him and what he was saying. They thought that he was suggesting that should be a greater role for government and education, which is not what he meant. And that's going to be a challenge for candidates as they go forward. With all these debates and all these public appearances, you better be clear about what you say. You better be able to say it in 10 seconds or less. And you better make sure that there's no room for misinterpretation. And one more thing, Sean, if viewers out there want to participate in any of these Fox focus groups, we're going to be all over the country. Go to lunchglobal.com, lunchglobal.com, and you can sign up.
You are brutal to them. You yell at them. You are. Is true or false?
I do my job, Sean.
You do.
And I do it for you.
I've heard you yelling at people in your focus groups.
Sean, I'm going to start yelling right now. Just go to lunchglobal.com.
All right, Frank Luntz, good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Pleasure.
And coming up, the man who could have been the next president of France is now behind bars on Rikers Island in New York tonight. We're going to have the very latest on the sex assault charges facing the head of the IMF. That's next. And later, former West Wing star Rob Lowe is in studio. He's going to talk about, well, people like Charlie Sheen and why is Hollywood so liberal. He and I will shoot it out coming up. The man who was once seen as the heir apparent to French President Nicolas Sarkozy is instead tonight sitting inside a jail cell. Now, Dominique Strauss-Kahn, who is the head of the International Monetary Fund, was arrested on sexual assault charges on Saturday. He is accused of attempting to rape a maid inside a luxurious New York City hotel. Now, Strauss-Kahn allegedly walked out of the bathroom naked, groped the woman, and then tried ripping off her clothes before she was able to escape. He was denied bail yesterday and now awaits to be arraigned inside one of America's most notorious prisons. Now, meanwhile, some French politicians are coming to the IMF chief's defense. In fact, they are accusing the U.S. of politicizing his arrest and are angry at the release of what they call degrading images of Strauss-Kahn. Now, additionally, a left-wing newspaper in France has released details of off-the-record comments that he recently made. According to the paper, he feared that one of his enemies might pay a woman millions to make up a story about rape. And tonight, another alleged victim has stepped forward, claiming she, too, was assaulted by Strauss-Kahn back in 2002. Here with reactions to all of this, the host of Varney and Company on the Fox Business Network, Stuart Varney, and the former White House press secretary, Dana Perino. Good to see you, guys. Well, first of all, the charges are so atrocious. And then to listen to the French media, oh, America's degrading this guy, putting him in handcuffs, and allowing this to be videotaped by the media, it really infuriates me. It's the people that held, what's his name, the filmmaker, Polanski, for all these years.
Well, there's a sharp contrast here. The IMF has done nothing so far. They have not removed him from his position. Remember, he is a French socialist. This is a stark contrast to Paul Wolfowitz, an American conservative, who was booted out of the World Bank simply because he'd had a consensual affair with a woman about which everybody knew. Compare that, the treatment of the American conservative, to the treatment of a French socialist who's been bailing out Europe with our money. Yeah. It is outrageous.
I've been a bit shocked that, that French national pride used to be about liberty, not libido. And what you've seen many of the papers come out and do is defend him, blame the victim. Yeah. According to the Rape and Incest Abuse National Network, only 4 in 10 women who experience a rape report it. She should be commended. Yes, he has a right to defend himself, but she has a right to report the charges. And I think that the police officers acted with total integrity. And the fact that he was arrested, well, that's our process. And I really don't need any lectures by the French on this.
No, the same French, we don't have an extradition treaty with them. And Roman Polanski, who was involved with drugging young girls, I think she was 13. Right. For literally 25 years, he's been hiding in France. And we've never been able to bring justice as he fled at the time of his arrest.
Now, they're looking at us and saying, the quote actually is, we are brutal. Our justice system
to rapists?
Brutal.
I hope so.
Yeah, because we showed pictures of Dominique Strauss-Kahn in handcuffs. In Europe, the great, the high and the mighty are taken into custody very quietly. You don't put them on television. You don't show their pictures out there, and everything is just wafted away. They're confusing an affair by a French politician with this, which is a flat-out sexual
calling rape sex is like hitting somebody over the head with a pot and calling it cooking. And it reminds me also, remember Mayor Barry of D.C., what he said about in the hotel room?
She set me up.
Yeah. It's eerily reminiscent of that period, and really an outrage. And her brother, who supposedly helped her and encouraged her to report it, that also should be commended, and the other people should follow that example.
She told the supervisors right away. She didn't wait.
Right. I mean, it's unusual for a rape to be reported within 4 hours.
What does this tell you about a modern socialist? This is a man who's got luxurious homes in various great cities of the world, and this is a man who is spending $3,000 a night for a luxury hotel suite in New York City. And this man is a socialist?
But then people lose their minds. Like Ben Stein mentions that piece. Ben Stein, this is unbelievable. He said that this is all about blaming people who have money. And he said that maids are sketchy. They steal things. I mean, people have lost their minds when it comes to this.
That's not good enough.
Yeah, it's not for me. All right, let me move on to presidential politics for a minute. Gas, $4 a gallon. 7 in 10 Americans say the high cost is now causing hardships for their families. 21% severe hardships, and their standard of living is jeopardized. Widespread pessimism that it won't stop rising. Unemployment is up. The latest, I don't see an index that supports
the housing numbers were really bad today.
Here's my contention.
Where is the prosperity? Tell me.
Here's my contention. These numbers stay the same. I say it's mathematically impossible for President Obama to get reelected. Right?
I would agree with that.
Wrong.
I would agree with that. If they stay the same, if unemployment stays substantially above 8%, and I think it will, then the re-election of Barack Obama looks a very distant prospect.
Sure. Inflation is, add inflation, 57 months in a row, the housing market has not gone up.
If the Republican candidate next year stands up and says, do you feel better off now than you were 4 years ago? If he does a Ronald Reagan, for example.
It's almost a question of, can you afford 4 more years? You could actually, there's a twist on that is, can you afford the future?
Yeah,
because if you do have 4 more years, the policies we have in place, look, there's some things that President can't do to change the economic situation, but there are people like me who think that policies put in place made the situation worse or kept it from rebounding as quickly as it could.
Let me go over the full Reagan quote, because are you better off than you were 4 years ago? But the whole quote is it easier for you to buy things in the store than it was 4 years ago? Is there more or less unemployment in the country than 4 years ago? Is America as respected throughout the world as it was? Do you feel that our security is as safe or as we were 4 years ago? The answer, yes. Vote for Obama.
In those days, you were coming out of 4 years of Jimmy Carter.
Right.
Now you're coming out of 4 years of President Obama, and the answers to the questions that Ronald Reagan asked are precisely the same now as they were then.
Exactly.
You can't buy the same stuff. America does not have the same standing. Unemployment is higher. The list is continuous. It's endless.
And there's one other thing to add, and that is that President Obama's health care bill will then be further entrenched unless it is challenged successfully in the courts. And then the question becomes, so who else is going to get these waivers?
Simple question.
Right?
Can you afford
308 million people under these plans are not going to have to deal with the health care bill as it was passed. So I think that the White House is in dire straits.
Putting you both on the record. We got to go.
Uh-oh.
Who's getting the Republican nomination?
I told you last week, and I'm sticking to my script, my own personal script. I'm not going to say.
Do you think you know?
No, I don't think I know it yet, no.
I said Chris Christie, but I heard your interview this afternoon, and it looks like he is not going to run.
And I did say that.
Yes, you did.
All right, so I'll give you another shot at...
Mitch Daniels looks like a strong up-and-comer.
See, if I were your press secretary, I would be explaining you should not answer that question because then you're going to have to keep...
Whoa.
I'm not in the same position as you.
You're working against my best interest. You're not helping the show if you put a muzzle on him.
I could be your press secretary, too, if you wanted.
I'll be out of a job if I don't express my opinion. All right, guys, good to see you. Let not your heart be troubled. Our great American panel is next. And tonight on our great American panel, he was the White House political director under President George W. Bush. Matt Schlapp is back. She is the founder of the Movement Vision Lab. Political commentator Sally Kohn is with us. And she is a columnist for the Daily Caller and author of this new terrific book. It's called Outnumbered, Chronicles of a Manhattan Conservative. Jedediah Bila is here. By the way, you got, let's see, my endorsement, Levin, thank me, David Limbaugh, Tammy Bruce.
Yep.
And the great picture looks great. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Being a liberal and being a conservative in New York is a challenge.
It is a challenge, and you're going to get ready to see the true face of left-wing elitism and intolerance. So pick it up.
Oh, I experience it in New York.
Yeah, I'm sure.
All right. You know what? We've watched Bill Clinton have sex with an intern in the Oval Office. We watched. I'm sorry, it wasn't
sex.
We
didn't actually watch him.
No, we didn't actually watch him. You Weisenheimer.
Pre-reality
nice.
TV.
We didn't watch him.
But I missed that video. Go ahead.
All right. It's not on YouTube. we saw John Edwards. He's on a presidential campaign, and he's having an affair. Now, how did Arnold Schwarzenegger, for 10 years, let's watch this tape of him talking about this.